This is a beautiful kitchen layout, and the only thing that we need to add is a really nice looking backsplash, and that is this video about. I want to guide you through the steps that I took to refinish this backsplash in the kitchen so you can enjoy more, you can have a fresh look in your kitchen, and you have an area that is protected as well. See, let me tell you a little bit about this kitchen and why we did that. Back in the days, they added some plastic paneling that looked like copper sheets. Although they look really nice, through the years they started deteriorating and all the chemicals just damaged the entire surface, so they were not good anymore. And what you see in the back of them, or on top of the drywall right now, are the marks of the glue that were used, and that is something that we need to correct before we do our project. Now, the type of tile that we're going to use is this type of tile from the company Adesi, and their size is 8 inches by 8 inches. So they have a beautiful symmetrical design that will work in any direction. So it's really cool and really practical to work with. And the only thing that we need to do is to make sure that they are adhered to the wall correctly. That is an important thing. Also, some tools that I'm going to show you that you're going to need. So let's start by removing all the excess material that is there, the sections that were loose, that were peeling, and you want to make sure that you don't kind of grab that and just drag it, because you're going to take a lot of the paper out. You want to make sure that you just take enough so it will be fairly clean. Now you're going to remove the excess pieces, and we're going to add this waterproofing membrane. It's going to help us for two things. First, it's going to seal all the loose material, and it's going to protect for water intrusion. So that is the cool thing. I actually use all this material. See, we're covering the counter because we don't want the material to fall there, although it's not going to stick to it too much. But you don't want to have a lot of mess, and especially when you're moving tiles, you want to cover it. So this material, you can apply with a brush, a small roller. Just make sure that you don't, kind of paint something that you don't need to paint with. I'll cover it with. And we're gonna let it dry for a couple of hours, so at least 1 or 2 hours. You're gonna feel it because there are some sections that are a little more light in color, and that's because it's drying, and the rest is nice and dry. So Mapei also makes this type of premium mortar, and it will dry fairly quick. So that is a cool material to work with, because as I move through the backsplash surface, I start just covering enough so I can work on the section. And I'm using that spatula in an 1/8 inch triangular trowel, so you can apply just enough on the surface. Obviously, if you have a more rough surface, you may want to use like a 1/4 by 1/4 trowel that will give you a little more room to play and just kind of maneuver your tiles with. So let's add some to the tile and some to the wall, and let's start making all those marks. I don't like to add a ton of the glue on the surface, because you need to cut around sections, the outlets, on the upper section. So it's better as you go, especially with this type of material that dries fairly quick. And I say fairly quick, that in like 6-8 minutes you start feeling the surface a little more dry. So as I go, I put some material on the surface, on the wall, and some on the back, using the same trowel, so that gives you some space. Now let's do this that sometimes I don't see in other videos. We got to mark over here the edges of the box. I'm holding the tile right against the other tile there, and on the surface I'm just marking the height of the box. Now you want to make sure that you don't cover the little hole for the screw that holds the outlet of the switch, and you want to make sure that you don't go too low, because then you don't have a support for the outlet. Sometimes you've seen that before. So I'm translating all these little lines with a square, and I'm cutting with this kind of cool wet saw. Now if you notice, I'm gonna back up a little bit my blade, and I'm just gonna cut by lifting the tile up. That is because I want to make sure that I have a straight cut. See, when you cut it nice and horizontally, you're gonna have some of the tile not cut in the back, and I want to make sure that I can cut as much in the back as possible. That's why I'm going back a little bit, so I know where my mark is, where my end of the cut is, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to make a small cut on the top. These blades, although they look like that, actually if you touch it with your fingers, it's not going to cut your finger. I'm not telling you to do that, but anyway, Don't be too scared about it. And then by cutting a little bit more in the back, because I have a little, you know, I can actually hide those cuts, I can take that out and just clean my cut really well. Remember not to cut excessively. Just make sure also that you use some eye protection, because a lot of particles are going to fly and you don't want those particles in your eyes. Believe me, that is not a pleasant thing to feel. So you want to go ahead and clean it really well, and do exactly the same thing for all the other cuts. Now, if you're using a grinder with a fine blade, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you're in a ventilated area. Look how nice it starts looking like. And that's how you continue going straight. You know, you cover some sections and then you move on. On the top, we also made a small cut, and we want to make sure that we maintain the design, and I'm going to show you in a moment. So we're going to use this beautiful warm gray grout, but instead of water, we're going to mix this with an additive, with this grout additive, and is some sort of a polymer solution that is going to help you avoiding all the stains and all the damages that normally happen when you use only mix with water. It's something really cool. I'm using this clean empty gallon, and I'm gonna mix just enough because the lines are so small that I don't need to use a ton of it. So I'm gonna use actually like 5 pounds out of the 10 pounds in that little bag of unscented grout. And notice that we maintain the beautiful design. I'm gonna show you in a moment what are the differences in between a professional job and just a mediocre work, and that's something that we want to avoid, because this is going to last for many years. So let's start applying. I have this small applicator over here. You want to make sure that you use a grout applicator or a plastic spatula and a compound knife, a plastic one, because you don't want to scratch your surfaces. You know, there are so many different designs of a grout applicator. There are some handheld ones that look like a trowel. The other ones look like a concrete spatula, but all of them have this kind of rubberish or plastic surface, a foamy surface, so you don't scratch anything. Now, allow it to dry for about 30 minutes. And using some clean sponges, you want to make sure that all the lines look the same. They have the same thickness. That is something that is important. A lot of people don't do that stuff, but remember that it's going to dry. It's going to be really hard later on to kind of reshape all those lines. You have all the time right now. Make sure that you use clean water as much as possible, and make sure that you keep all the surfaces nice and clean. Now, at the end, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work with a dry cloth or dry piece of paper just to kind of remove that haze. Look at the design in that corner, and we're gonna go back over there to that line. You see that we made that out of 3 pieces because we wanna maintain the design. That is an important professional thing that you need to consider when you're doing this. Take your time to do these patterns like that, because it's worth it. It will look really nice. Look at, you don't see where the corner is because you are working really well and maintaining those designs. That is an important thing that I love to do. Remember to clean it up really well. Maybe you can use a little bit of soapy water after a day and install your outlets and switch covers. Now follow me on YouTube as Hugo Correa, in Facebook as Hugo Correa DIY for a lot of projects in Spanish, and also my posting on Instagram as Hugo F Correa DIY. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye.